On the eve of Artemis 2 making its loop around the dark side of the moon, I encourage you to revisit Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, the story of institutionalization. Institutionalization is a transformation, and the symbol on the cover can be interpreted many ways. I look at it and I see physics, and I see thermodynamics, i.e., nothing ever dies, things just change form. And I'll remind you that in Hebrew, 40 is transformation. I'm not going to get bogged down on a whole bunch of minutiae and facts about Dark Side of the Moon that you can find anywhere. But the original title is The Dark Side of the Moon, a piece for assorted lunatics. And it came out in 1973. The space program, the Apollo program, had officially ended in 1972. And this album spent 1,716 weeks as of 2006 in the top 200. It's one of the most successful albums of all time. People often cite that this album is about madness. And while institutionalization is madness, a more appropriate word is lunacy. And we're not talking about the kind of madness or lunacy that comes from, some mysterious place. We're saying the madness and the lunacy that comes from being institutionalized. These are drastically different things. The line spoken in the background, "I've always been mad. I know I've been mad. Like the most of us. Very hard to explain why you're mad, even if you're not mad." Institutionalization is something that happens to all of us, whether you get it at church or at school or the military or a paramilitary organization like the police or the fire department, or you go to prison, or you become trans, or you believe in aliens, or whatever crazy cult belief you've got. And we've all got them. They were institutionalized in us. Speak to me is sentience. It's being born. It's being alive for the first time. In your youth, you're really living, and breathe really describes it. Just take a moment and read the lyrics yourself. For long you live and high you fly, but only if you ride the tide, and balanced on the biggest wave, you race towards an early grave. The biggest wave in history is the framework that our civilization is built upon, and that's the larger picture of religion. If you don't go along with it, it's pretty tough to move about in the world. And the downside of this is that religion has created every other narrative, and they're all self-destructive. I want you to think of Lieutenant Dan and how he was presented in Forrest Gump. He had this fantasy that he would die in war like all of his forefathers. And that's part of institutionalization. I've got to live this glorious self-destruction. Even though I could look back at history and say, well, that didn't work out. Once we're placed in an institution, in our institutionalized world, we are on the run. There are no lyrics to this song. There is a female announcer, sounds like she's at an airport. Live for today, gone tomorrow. That's me. Ha 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 ha. And I want you to notice how synthetic the sounds are in the song. It's not really very musical. It sounds like chaos. And I want you to think of in Anthony Burgess's A Clockwork Orange, when young Alex has his eyes pried open and he's forced to watch the combination of sex, violence, and religion over and over and over until it feminizes his mind and he becomes weak and betrays his own instincts. The explosion at the end, it sounds like a plane crashing and just agony of defeat all the way down. It represents the self-destruction that goes along with being in any cult. And culture is a cult. We all live in an enormous cult that goes back thousands of years. Time begins jarringly because it takes us a while to figure out how quickly the time goes, and we waste so much of it. We're constantly working. We're not really living our lives. This is what institutionalization does to us. It makes us chase all the wrong things. I don't really want to divert to other things, but the importance of time to humanity, it's half of the equation. You've got to figure out time and space, because all you have is time and space. This will be a whole nother video. Time runs out faster than we expect. Like when you go to a party and everyone's just kind of sitting around, and when it's time to go, everyone gets lively. Like, oh, it's over, now we've got to communicate. After On the Run and Time, we come back to the Breathe reprise. And now it reflects ideas about our culture and our basic social life. We have home and we have church. And the line, far away across the field, the tolling of the iron bell calls the faithful to their knees to hear the softly spoken magic spells. If you say it out loud yourself and you feel how it feels to come out of your mouth, that last line, it feels like you can't say it, but you do, and you feel it softly. It's really amazing, actually. The Great Gig in the Sky. They brought Claire Torrey in to sing this song, and Alan Parsons said, just do whatever you want. And no. And finally she landed on one of the most beautiful songs you'll ever hear in your life. And there's no words to it. It is the story of living, loving, and leaving. And it's so beautiful. It describes everything about life in such a primitive way, and it really makes it wonderful. We can hear every loss in it. We can hear spirituality. We can hear the pain of knowing that someday we're going to die, or at least transform into something new. In the background, we hear a voice cry out, I never said I was afraid of dying. Religion and the institutionalization of it promises these free from pain, death, and afterlife, and I'm not sure that everybody really asks for that. Money, the system imposed upon us, that's but one idea of the world. Many different ideas throughout history have been tried, and it might be the best one. But it certainly weaponizes us against other people that don't have any, and what we do to get it. It manipulates every aspect of our lives and every single one of us. It is this unifier, this motivation to sometimes do wrong. People often say, follow the money, and that's the answer. But I actually think the picture is bigger than that. Money is a tool. And it certainly does divide us. I'm not sure if I should point this out, but, in ancient Babylonia, there was the word mina, and 60 shekels to a mina. And this is more significant, but we'll get into it later. The absolutely weird 5/8 time signature of this song is uncomfortable and funky. We like it and we dislike it all at the same time. And that makes it fascinating in and of itself. It's definitely my least favorite song on the album, but I find myself listening to it because, it's groovy. Money leads us into the preamble conversation before us and them, where people are having an argument and they sort it out with violence. There's the right side and the wrong side. Us and them is the in-group and the out-group. And I like to point out that it feels like you're floating, which references riding on the biggest wave line from earlier. We're all divided by ancient ideas of nations, when in fact modern science knows that there's one human genotype and we're not really any different. First, the song delves into war, the ultimate outcome of in-group, out-group, us versus them sort of thinking. But in the end, it's only round and round. The forever war nature of our civilization that's been at war for thousands of years, it's never going to end, and it's always going to be a waste of time, money, resources, everything. And you can't really build a great civilization if you're wasting it on bombs. Haven't you heard? It's a battle of words. The poster bearer cried. I want you to remember that at the origin of the narrative of our civilization is Moses, and he was a poster bearer. He was like a newscaster who brought the message, okay? And the world is just that. It is a bunch of competing narratives. The song dips into talking about a weaponized man explaining how to, delete someone. Institutionalization weaponizes us to think we're the only important people and everyone else is not important. The song ends with how society treats the poor. The downtrodden are just, the situation just gets worse and worse. Society treats them even worse, and they don't survive it. You might know that in the third world, nobody really goes hungry because everybody shares their food. They don't have a poverty problem. They're just kind of all in it together. It's a different way of looking at the world for sure. When people tell me they're Scottish or French or whatever, I just always kind of internally roll my eyes, because the reality is that your nation identity is very, very short period of time in human history. Human history is 300,000 years old, and people went all over the place and shared genetics, and there is no race that is pure. That's just ridiculous, okay? So we hold up these identities that we get off of, what are those things called? I don't know, those DNA testing sites. And You are so much more than that, okay? The us versus them thing, the reality is that you're a human being and you belong to the human race. And that's a good idea. In the United States right now, we have the left versus the right. And they both got these ridiculous strategies, and all they do is fight. And they don't realize that the cult that manufactured them is the same. All right? This is the Western world built both sides of your argument and both sides of your talking point, and it makes it round and round forever. And I'll remind you, Erasmus said something to the extent of, the thing that I'm most proud of myself about is the fact that I never joined a sect, i.e., he never went that hard with any particular group, at least within the confines of survival within a culture and the time period that you live. All religions in history are written by polymaths. And this is also true for old religions like astrology and our Constitution, right? Thomas Jefferson and the inner circle of people, they were polymaths. They were incredible geniuses that borrowed from many disciplines of knowledge and wrote things that, like the Constitution, you can see yourself in it because of its vagueness. Astrology, the vagueness, and any color you like is identifying this vagueness that goes along with an ideology that's taught in an institution. Okay, the lunatic. It's on the grass. It's in the hall. Okay? It's the newspaper. It's the constant repetition of what that institution taught you that turns you into the lunatic. The lunatic is in my head. You raise the blade. You make the change. You rearrange me till I'm sane, till I repeat the narrative that you want me to repeat within this institution. I met a lot of people that this line about raising the blade and making them sane really spoke to them. And I met religious people that were like, yeah, I transformed and I became a believer. I'm saved, I'm born again. And the trans person is essentially the exact same personality type, right? Like all of the things that trans people believe and religious people believe are exactly the same. Interesting. Keep in mind that the institution has thousands of years head start on you, okay? They really know what they're doing and can do it with such subtlety, it's remarkable. You lock the door, throw away the key. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. Well, if that doesn't sound like institutionalization, I don't know what is. And if the cloud bursts, thunder in your ear, you shout and no one seems to hear. All of humanity, you could say, is divided by a personality type of a soldier or a scout. Most people are soldiers, and history produces a few scouts, the people that go looking for brand new ideas and refine them and change the world, right? Isaac Newton was a scout. Plato was a scout. Aristotle was a scout, okay? If you don't toe the line of the narrative as a soldier, or if you are a scout and you see through all of these things, you're going to be vilified. If you are one of these people, then the singer says, I'll see you on the dark side of the moon. The part that nobody ever sees. And there's a lot to the moon to learn. The folklore of the moon is fascinating and very telling about humanity. Eclipse, all that you touch, all that you see, all that you taste, all that you feel, all of these things describe time and space and your experience in it. And all you have is time and space, and all you can actually do, like morality, is you can either create or destroy. And even when you do nothing, you still favor an outcome. All of our ridiculous idioms shape everything that we interact with in time and space, and whether or not we create or destroy. The institutionalization within us is our biggest enemy. It causes us to fight, to lose loved ones, to have difficulties in life, and none of those things are worth it. They're not really living. They're synthetic. They are a clockwork orange. All that is now, all that is gone, all that's to come, and everything under the sun is in tune, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon. Now, I really want you to do this part out loud in the privacy of your own home or wherever you're doing this. And when you get to the moon part, if you don't crane your neck like a wolf howling at the moon, you can't hit that note. And when I did it just now, I did it on purpose to where you could hear it wrong, because that way it actually makes a little bit more sense. As discussed in other videos about institutionalization, it has a lot to do with how your body language is controlled. And at the very end of this album, they make you go through this sequence of words that forces your body language to actually make the howl like a wolf. And, you know, humanity's connection with the dog and the canine and the wolf is undeniable. And that's just kind of a neat little thing that they did at the end. And it's an example of body language control in institutionalization. And that is amazing. These guys didn't just tell you a story of institutionalization, they actually demonstrate it. And they do it more than once. And it's really an incredible work of art. I encourage the listening. The last line of the album is, "There is no dark side of the moon, really. Matter of fact, it's all dark." And then Alan Parsons actually turns down the volume on the very last part. And the same voice says, "The only thing that makes it a light is the sun." 2/3 of Abrahamic religion actually still keeps time by the moon. And the moon is beautiful, and it's safety in the dark for hundreds of thousands of years of Homo sapien, and that can't be denied. But it is artificially lit. It's the sun that makes it look like that. It doesn't have any light within it. And the basic idea to take away is, don't put your faith in something that's falsely lit. Look at the thing that's actually illuminating it. The next to last line, "Everything under the sun is in tune," is actually mathematically true. If we stretch this string all the way across the cosmos and we plucked it, and let's say for sake of argument, it returns a frequency of 440 hertz, let's call it an A, and we took that same string and we cut it in half, and we plucked both of the strings, they would both be A, and then we plucked the two of those into 4, those 4 would be an A, and it will keep going forever. And because we can forever slice things smaller, it never ends in an infinite direction. This is incredible. I have no idea if any of the boys in the band knew anything about this, but the way that everything lines up with things that are really true in the cosmos is a testament to the power of art and when great minds get together. I guess we could call the moon synthetic illumination. And I find that interesting. By the way, the dark side of the moon lasts 42 minutes. Douglas Adams also uses 42 as the secret to life, the universe, and everything. In fact, I found different measurements of the exact amount of time of duration. So we'll call it 42 minutes and 56 seconds. Did you know that the first empire in the world was established 4,200 years ago? Without music, life would be a mistake. Nietzsche. Anyway, thank you, take care, and I hope you enjoyed this little presentation I put together on the dark side of the moon. And we're going to talk about the moon more in the future. I'm going to teach you all about it.